My father threw me out of the palace because of you. Those words echo in my mind with a weight I never imagined I would have to carry. Yet even now, as I say them to you, there is no accusation in my heart. You are not standing in front of me, but I am speaking to you as if you are, because you deserve to hear this from me, not from rumors or whispers twisted by anger. The palace doors closed behind me with a finality that still feels unreal, but what hurt more was not losing marble halls or inherited power. It was realizing how easily love becomes rebellion in a world ruled by pride. I want you to know that when my father made his choice, it wasn't just about you, though your name was the one he spoke. It was about control, legacy, and a future he had written long before I learned how to want something for myself. Loving you challenged everything he believed a prince should be. Standing my ground meant stepping outside the life I was raised to protect. I didn't argue to win. I argued because denying you would have meant denying myself, and that was a price I was no longer willing to pay. When I walked out, stripped of title and protection, I felt fear for the first time, not because I had lost comfort, but because I didn't know how far this fallout would reach you. That is what keeps me awake now. I can endure exile, I can rebuild from nothing, but the thought that my choices might bring trouble to your life is harder to bear than any punishment my father could give me. You didn't ask for this war between blood and heart, yet here we are. You might blame yourself when you hear this, and that is what I need you not to do. You didn't force my hand or manipulate my loyalty. You simply existed honestly in a world that thrives on compromise. If loving you exposed the cracks in my family's rule, those cracks were always there. You were not the cause. You were the truth that revealed them. There are moments when I miss the certainty the palace offered, the structure, the identity that came with my name. But then I think of you, and I remember why certainty without choice is just another kind of prison. Out here, everything is uncertain, yet every breath feels earned. If this is the cost of choosing you, then it is a cost I accept without regret, even if the road ahead is unforgiving. I wish you were here so I could tell you this without distance between us, so you could see that I am not broken by what happened. I am changed, yes, but not defeated. I am learning who I am without crowns and expectations, and strangely, that version of me feels closer to the man you always believed I could be. Maybe losing the palace was the only way to finally become myself. So hear me clearly, wherever you are. I was thrown out because I refused to let them erase you from my life. If that makes me a disgrace in their eyes, then I will wear that disgrace with honor. I don't know what the future holds now, but I know this: no throne was ever worth more than loving you openly. And I would make the same choice again, even knowing the cost. I am telling you this in the quiet, away from the echo of palace walls that no longer belong to me. You are not here, yet you are the only person I want to speak to, because everything that happened traces back to what I feel for you. When I stepped beyond those gates for the last time, it wasn't anger that followed me, it was clarity. For the first time, I understood how fragile power is when it's built on obedience rather than truth. What happened between my father and me was inevitable, even if the timing was cruel. He spoke of duty, of bloodlines, of expectations carried through generations, as if love were a flaw to be corrected. Your name was mentioned like an accusation, but in his voice I heard fear more than authority. Fear that I would choose my own heart over a future he could control. That choice cost me everything he once promised, but it gave me something far more honest. Walking away from the palace was not dramatic or heroic. It was quiet, almost ordinary, and that made it hurt more. I felt the weight of generations lift from my shoulders, even as the ground beneath me disappeared. I thought of you with every step, wondering if you would blame yourself, if you would think you had ruined my life. That thought hurt more than exile itself, because none of this was your doing. You never asked me to defy him, never demanded sacrifices or declarations. You simply existed as yourself, and that was enough to disrupt a system built on appearances. If loving you exposed how little freedom I truly had, then that freedom was already an illusion. You were not the cause of my fall. You were the reason I finally saw the truth. There are moments when fear creeps in, when I wonder how I will build a life without the safety net I was born into. The world outside the palace is unfamiliar, unforgiving, and indifferent to royal names. Still, even in that uncertainty, I feel something I never felt inside those walls: ownership of my choices. For the first time, every step forward is mine. I wish you could see me now, not as a prince cast out, but as a man learning to stand on his own. I am not angry with my father, only saddened by his inability to understand that loyalty cannot be forced. I carry no resentment toward you, only a fierce need to protect you from the consequences of my defiance. So when you think about what happened, remember this: above all else, I do not regret choosing you. Losing the palace was a loss of comfort, not of identity. You did not take anything from me. I walked away willingly, and even if the world calls this a downfall, I know in my heart that it was the first honest step I have ever taken. I am speaking to you from a place I never imagined I would stand, a place without guards, without ceremony, without the echo of my name being announced before I enter a room. You are not here, yet every thought I have is directed toward you, because this separation from the palace began the moment I refused to separate myself from you. The silence around me feels strange, but it is honest in a way the palace never was. The confrontation with my father was not loud, but it was final. He spoke as if love were a weakness that needed correction, as if my feelings were a temporary illness that discipline could cure. When he mentioned you, his voice hardened, not with hatred, but with disappointment that I would choose something uncontrollable. In that moment, I realized he was not trying to protect me. He was trying to preserve an image that could not survive my choice. Leaving the palace felt like crossing an invisible line drawn generations ago. I didn't carry anger with me. I carried grief for the life I was expected to live and the man I was expected to become. I wondered if you would feel guilty when you found out, if you would believe that my exile was your fault. That fear has followed me more closely than any guard ever did. You need to understand this clearly. You did not ruin my future. You revealed the truth about it. A future that demands the sacrifice of love is not a future worth inheriting. If my father believed throwing me out would make me abandon you, he misunderstood me completely. What he took from me were walls and titles, not conviction. There are nights when uncertainty weighs heavily on me, when I think about how different everything looks now. I no longer have certainty, protection, or the luxury of mistakes being hidden. But even in this unfamiliar world, I feel something new: freedom to choose my own path, even if that path is difficult. That freedom carries your name in every step I take. I wish you were standing in front of me so I could tell you not to carry this burden in your heart. I am not broken by what happened, nor am I angry at you. If anything, I am more determined than ever to build a life that belongs to us, not to tradition or expectation. I would endure this exile 1,000 times before pretending you never mattered. So hear me now, even from a distance. I was cast out because I refused to erase you from my life, and I would make that same choice again without hesitation. Whatever lies ahead, I will face it with honesty and strength. knowing that losing a palace is nothing compared to losing myself. I am talking to you from a world that no longer recognizes my name the way it used to, yet somehow feels more real than anything I left behind. You are not here, but you are the only reason my thoughts remain steady after everything that happened. When the palace doors closed, it wasn't just a place I lost, it was an identity I had worn for so long that I forgot it could ever be taken away. My father's decision came wrapped in authority, but beneath it was fear. Fear that I would choose love over legacy, truth over tradition. He spoke as if you were a disruption, something that threatened the order he had spent his life protecting. In that moment, I understood that his anger was never truly about you. It was about losing control over the story he had written for me. Walking away from the palace was not an act of rebellion, but of acceptance. I accepted that I could no longer live a life where my heart was treated like a liability. Every step away from those walls felt heavy with consequence, yet strangely light with honesty. I kept wondering if you would blame yourself, if you would feel responsible for a decision that was always mine to make. You never asked me to choose between you and my family. You never demanded promises or sacrifices. You simply existed as yourself, and that was enough to show me how conditional my freedom had always been. If loving you cost me my place, then that place was never truly mine to begin with. You didn't take anything from me. You gave me clarity. There are moments now when uncertainty presses in, when I question how I will build something new without the structure I was born into. The world beyond the palace does not bend easily, and it offers no guarantees. Still, every challenge feels honest, because it is faced by choice, not obligation. That difference matters more than comfort ever did. I wish I could sit across from you and tell you all of this without distance between us. I wish you could see that I am not angry, not broken, not filled with regret. What I feel is resolve. If my father thought exile would make me let go of you, he underestimated the depth of my conviction. So remember this wherever you are. I was not thrown out because of you, but because I refused to live without you in my heart. Losing the palace was the price of choosing myself, and choosing you was part of that truth. Whatever future I build now will be earned, honest, and free, and that makes it worth everything I left behind.